totally awesome to be here. And I was like, we were driving up and I was like, Tara, where are we going? Then I was like, oh my God, we're going where all the pink people are. This is so great. Okay, so let's hear it from Oberlin. And our folks were here from Worcester too. And Youngstown State. Let's hear it from them anyway, whatever. And Case Western. And Cleveland State. Who else we miss? OU, all right, let's hear it for OU. Well, you're a beautiful sight. I was thinking that during the midst of all this big fight in Congress, do y'all know we had this big fight in Congress and they were trying to get rid of all the Planned Parenthood services all across the country? I know, we're going to talk about it in a second. Hey, but we beat them, you know what? Well, it's funny though, because we were having we had a big rally in New York City that day, and it's, you know, put together a rally in New York City it's important, but it's, you know, there's a lot of folks. And so I'm getting ready to go to the rally, and I'm so excited, and I get a text from my son Daniel, and who goes to Allegheny, and he texts me and he says, "Hey Mom, I'm in a big bus and we're all going over to Toledo for a big rally for Planned Parenthood, so I love you." And I was like, okay, if Daniel's going to Toledo for a rally, this is a movement, my friend. And he loved it so much now he's the vice chair of his Vox chapter at Allegheny. So in any case, anyway, it's a movement. Well, it's great to be back in Ohio. I mean, there's just so many great things going on here and so many things we got to fight. So first, I want you to raise your hand if you've ever been to Planned Parenthood as a patient. Thank you. That's what we need. We need folks who have been our former patients and our current patients and our future patients to stand up, because Governor Kasich and the legislature in this state is taking both barrels and aimed it at women and women's rights, and we need you to stand up and fight back. Okay? So I'm not going to tell you everything that's happened here, but we're going to leave with some stuff to do. But you need to know what we dealt with this year in the legislature. You probably know the last election, the voters were frustrated, they're out of work, they're hurting, and they sent a message to Congress and they said, we need you to help us get back to work. But instead, what did the current House of Representatives do, led by Speaker John Boehner, is they went after Planned Parenthood the very first month they went into office, right? In fact, this spring, Speaker Boehner was willing to shut down the entire federal government over whether or not women could go to Planned Parenthood for birth control and cancer screenings. Is that right? So, seriously, he was literally, this was his issue. And there was, I don't know if you'll remember what happened, but there was had been a big showdown. And the speaker went, it was the night of the federal government literally shutting down, closing our national parks, cutting people off Social Security, all of our federal employees. The speaker went to the Oval Office and he had one demand for President Obama. What was that? To shut down services at Planned Parenthood. And President Obama had two words for him: nope and zero, right? And John Boehner came back at him again. And the president repeated his answer. He said, nope, zero. And he said, John, this is it. You just don't understand. And that's why it matters that we have a president of the United States who stands for women's health and will draw But it wasn't over, because the next week we had to go to the United States Senate and we had to take a vote on the Senate floor, literally, at a time in which our economy's in shambles, people are hurting. What does the Senate spend their time doing? Voting on whether or not Planned Parenthood could stay in business. We won that vote 58 to 42 because Senator Sherrod Brown and the rest of the and that's what we got to do. But that's why it matters. But it didn't just end there, as you know. We are now fighting all across the country these battles in states from South Dakota to my home state of Texas to North Carolina to Kansas, where they're trying to cut off women's services. And right here in Ohio, we are seeing some of the worst assaults on women's reproductive access that we've seen anywhere in the country. Like the heartbeat bill, which you all know about, right? That's right. This would be one of the worst bills in the country. It would absolutely cut off abortion access to women all across the state of Ohio, with no exception for rape, incest, or the mental health of the mother. We're seeing now the threats for a bill to cut off funding for Planned Parenthood. And now they're rumoring a constitutional amendment on personhood to go to the ballot. Here's my message to you. We didn't create these fights, we didn't pick these fights, but by God, we're going to win these fights. So here's the good news, and I'm an organizer. I came up as a union organizer a long time ago. When they declared war on Planned Parenthood, women across the country, the 1 in 5 women who've been to Planned Parenthood, millions of, I think I heard from every single one of them, women started sending us their stories, telling their stories to members of Congress, and we got more than 1 million new supporters of Planned Parenthood because of the attack in the United States. That's right. That's what I call organizing. And the good news is, half of them are young, and they're all registered to vote, and they're going to vote in the next election. There's a couple of things that I want you to do here in Ohio. Some of you know that the President passed the Affordable Care Act, right? And it does a few things, right? First of all, it means women, no longer gender discrimination by insurance companies. Exactly. And now you can't be prevented from getting insurance because you've had breast cancer or you've had a baby, right? And one of the most important things Kathleen Sebelius announced this summer is that women who are insured in the new insurance plans are going to get birth control for no cost. The great news is being a woman is no longer going to be a pre-existing condition, but this is why you've got to help and work and fight to vote down Amendment 3, right? Issue 3. Issue 3. Everyone's got that? And our friends in organized labor, our working families in this country have been under attack. We've got to repeal SB 5, and you've got to help us vote. Is that right? Issue 2. Okay, issue 2 and issue 3. No on issue 2. No on issue 3. Is that? No on issue 2. Just
yeah, it's no. It's
okay,
no.
Connie's helping me here. Sorry, because I have a list of things you guys have got to do. You've got to do. Right. Okay. I know, but I don't want to forget, because look, as an organizer, the thing that's most important is that everybody knows what they're supposed to do. So here's the 3 things I need for you to do. Sign up to phone bank on those issues, right? Okay? September 27th, phone banking on those issues. Second, we need we need your voice to be out there. You just heard from Triple T. Were they amazing? So we got a videographer here today. Tell your story about why you support Planned Parenthood and your experience. And the third is we need you to organize on campus. Every single one of you can go out and organize on your campus, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds more, because it is young people in this country that are going to matter in the next 12 months. You're going to absolutely rule the future, and you're going to rule next November. And next week, we have our own United States Senator Sherrod Brown is doing a telephone town hall. Every single one of you, we need thousands of people talking to Senator Brown, encouraging him and telling him that you stand for Planned Parenthood and you stand for women and you stand for the health of young people. Can you do that?
Yes.
Okay, absolutely. Those are your things. So if you do that, the future's going to be better, because this is my belief, and really Connie said this. Sorry, I got to kind of crazy here, a lot of things we got to do. I actually think that we got really bad political troubles right now. We're at a tough time, but the future of this country is absolutely with you, right?
That's right.
You're the ones who are going to make the difference. So, and this is the story I'll leave you with. So, we did this big mobilization in Washington, D.C., and when the Senate was about to vote, and when we were literally on the precipice of whether 2 million women in this country would still be able to get services at Planned Parenthood. And so I was standing there at the mall, and there was this sea of pink. It's like you guys and then a few more. And thousands of people in pink. And I was standing next to a guy named Wade Henderson, who's the head of the Leadership Conference on Civil Rights. Wade Henderson has been in every important civil rights and social justice battle. He marched with Dr. King. He's done every single thing in his life. And he stood there next to me, and he looked at this crowd, and he said, "Look at all those young people. Look at all those young people. Where do they come from?" It was the most amazing wave of young people coming to Washington, D.C. And the next day, a young woman named Sonia spoke up to the crowd, because we talked about the experience. And she said, "You know, I'd never been to Washington, D.C. She said, I didn't even know what a rally was. I'd never been to a rally. But I stood there, and there was the United States Capitol in front of me, and there was the Lincoln Memorial and the Washington Monument behind me. And I knew then that every single big, important civil rights battle in this country had been waged and fought right there, and I was part of making history. And she was, and she did. And it was young people who saved Planned Parenthood this year and who are going to save women's health, save young people's health, and save in the future. So thank you for what you do. You're beautiful.